So I've already finished one set of the stations, which I put in Ziploc baggies. Everything's coming together. This is one of the stations that I've created, and there are 8 stations, but I'm creating 2 sets because I want to have a set of stations in the lab area, and then I want to have a set of stations up in the main class. Now that I actually have tables, last year in my last classroom, I had, those traditional desks that are attached to the chair, and it has like the metal bar with a basket at the bottom. And it was I wanted to do stuff on them, but anytime a student moved, things would fall to the floor. And it was just a very frustrating, I had a very frustrating time in that class with the desk and then with the projector. So I'm happy that I have the student tables, because now that they're sitting in groups, I can have a set of stations up in the classroom area, and students can pick and choose how they want to rotate around. And so it just gives me more flexibility to meet the needs of my students, and they can go at their own pace. And it's just a great idea to help me out for the school year. So that's what I'm doing right now. I finally got comfortable vlogging when I'm doing it in the shopping center. So I'm heading to the school now because I need to make copies. And other than that, it's to get ready for my day tomorrow. Of course, Lord Voldemort would not be working. So copier 1 was down. I'm gonna go try copier 2. So to stop at the school real quick to make copies, and there's actually a couple other teachers here. I need to go back and fix something because I found an error in one of the papers, so I have to copy it tomorrow when I get here in the morning. It's 6:54, the first day of school, and I'm about to pull onto campus. I'm excited. I need to have some breakfast because that's the one thing. I started to get very anxious as I got out of the shower and I was getting ready. I don't know why. But I feel okay now. I just need to eat something. I did have a shake this morning though. So I just got here. Time to get the show on the road. So I just arrived at campus. It's 6:55 a.m. I need to go make copies because I found a mistake in the photo release and video form. And then there are 2 sheets where I need to make about 6 copies each for the learning stations today. I'm here with my friend, my BFF, and it finished just on time. So I'm about to jump into the fume hood. It's cleaned down. I want to recreate a photo that I did the last time I taught chemistry 7 years ago. I was in a brand new classroom, and I just had this secret fantasy of jumping inside the fume hood and taking a picture. So that's what I'm gonna do right now. I almost got locked in there. So my copies are made, at least the ones that I had forgot at home yesterday when I came up to the school. Other than that, it's going on 7:50 right now. So right now it's just waiting for the students. We're starting off with advisory first. Actually, I need to go check the schedule because I'm not familiar with that yet, because we're not doing the normal bell schedule. So first day of school, the power just went out in our building. So no electricity, no air, nothing. So no access to Wi-Fi because the internet is down as well. So luckily I didn't really have or need to use technology for my lesson today, except for one of the learning stations. So I just have to scratch that. Other than that, school's about to start in like 3 minutes. So we're doing advisory first.
And then after advisory is normal bell schedule. So I teach first, second, then it's lunch. I'm off third, and then fourth period.
Good morning, Viking Nation. Young Vikings, freshmen, sophomore, junior, seniors, if you would make your way to your advisory class now.
Class is starting.
So students,
gotta
freshmen,
go. So it's the first day of school. It is lunchtime. Yes, sir. She's probably in one having lunch with the teachers. So my students did a lab equipment and lab safety student stations activity. So there were 8 stations and I created 2 versions. So there was a version back in the lab area, and then I had a duplicate version out in the student classroom area. And so students got to pick and choose the order they wanted to go into. Some students, I noticed that they worked by themselves. There were other students that went from group to group. They hopped around from group to group, but they were on task and doing their work. And it's great because this is the easiest learning stations lab that I have. So this third period right now, I don't have a class. It's my planning period. I'm in the middle of putting up. What I did is I printed or created an Excel sheet from my roster, and I just made the student names in big font. Then I put a number by their name, and I just did in alphabetical order. So whoever the first student was is number 1, and that's how I'm placing the students right now. So I'm using my handy dandy paper cutter that I brought from home. And I'm just cutting tiny strips. Well, they're about maybe this size, and it's gonna have the student name on them. And then I just go around and I place them on the table, and so as students are coming into the classroom, I just say, find your name, that's where you sit temporarily. I almost messed up somebody's name. That's where they're gonna sit temporarily until I get to know their names, and then perhaps when I implement flexible seating, it's not really gonna matter at that point anyways, because they can choose where they wanna sit. So other than that, that's what I'm doing right now. I have about 25 minutes left before 4th period starts, but other than that, it's been a great day so far. One of the other things that I normally do, and I'll show you, especially if you're a new teacher and you just want ideas, is during my planning period, I always prepare for the next class. So I just have the syllabus out, the photo release form out, and then a white piece of cardstock so that they can put their name in, create a name tag, so that way I can learn the names, put a name to a face. So one of the things that I think I am going to do is create a cumulative quiz over the learning stations. With my first period, there were some students that just were copying the answers, and so I just stopped the class and I let them know, like, hey, I don't mind if you all work together, but it's going to be very apparent if you're cheating, because you're going to take an assessment over this. Because they went to the evaluation station, and first of all, on the evaluation station it says it's highly recommended that you do the other stations before you do that one. But some students who had done previous stations went to that and they weren't able to answer questions, and I said, if you paid attention, you did the reading, or you watched the videos, or you participated in the activities, then you would have easily been able to answer the questions, because the questions were created from the other stations themselves. So I let them know that, and then also just reading instructions, because I told students, like, hey, it says, I don't know if you can see that, but it has, the materials before you begin, the directions, so once you get there, you need to look for this photo frame with the directions, the station directions, the overview in there. So that's gonna be the first thing that you do when you get there. Second period went a lot. First period wasn't horrible. There was like 1 or 2 kids that were on their phones, so I had to redirect them and let them know, hey, do I already need to call home? Do I already need to call home and have that conversation? And then the second period, I didn't have much issue. I just noticed there were some kids that worked individually, some students that worked together throughout all the stations, some students that hopped from group to group. And so it just was a mix, but overall it's going pretty well today. So right now what I'm also working on is just things for the upcoming lesson, because they're gonna get through, wrong email. So right now I'm working on, because this Friday is going to be a B-Day, and so my B-Day classes will now be ahead versus my A-Day classes. And I want to, hopefully they'll have all their safety contracts back, because I want to be able to do where they're pouring things in, and I can't really do that if, I know that sounds silly, but it's district policy that I can't engage in a lab if they don't have their safety contracts, and I don't want to have like half the class doing it and the other half the class not doing it. So I might get into significant figures, accuracy, precision, scientific notation by the end of this week. What else? The tech people came in to fix my Bluetooth microphone, or at least the audio. So I had actually, before the last day, well, the last day of school last year, when I came in here to scope out the room and get ideas for how I wanted to set it up, that was the innovation station, and I showed that in my beginning of the year and end of year tour video. It was like that black cart, and there was a Bluetooth microphone in there. So that was the thing I checked to make sure that their technology was fine, and I noticed that this wasn't working. So I put in a support ticket, we call it here a heat ticket, to make sure that any issues were taken care of for the summer. But I came back, when we came back last week for the first week back, it still wasn't working. So I had contacted because I opened up the inquiry and noticed that someone came in shortly after, in the summer, a couple days after I had put in the support ticket, and they had made a note in there, but that was 2 months ago. So the people showed up today and they fixed it. So can you hear me? I love using this. And remember, change your email settings. Do not reply all if the entire campus doesn't need it. So fix that, because just reply all, reply all, reply all, reply all. So third period is about to start in like 2 minutes. So get all my stuff ready for my class, cut on my innovation station, and get the show on the road. So that was the first day of school. The kids are leaving. My feet hurt, I'm tired, but it was a success. So round 2 tomorrow, same thing, because we're on block schedule. So everything we did today, we're doing tomorrow. Today's day 2 of the first week back to school. Today's a B-Day, so that means, well, let me explain if I'd never explained this before. So here in my district, the high schools, we're on an A-B block schedule. Block schedules can vary just depending on the district that you're at. So we do an A-B rotating block schedule. So on every Monday and Wednesdays are A days, so that's 1st through 4th period. And then every Tuesdays and Thursdays are B days, 5th through 8th period. And then Fridays alternate between A and B. So this first Friday is going to be a B day, and I believe the next Friday is an A day, because usually that's how it works, unless for some reason there's a holiday or there's some schedule where students might be missing time, so they adjust it. But usually it's, you know, B day, then it's A day, then B day, then A day for those particular Fridays. Everything that I did yesterday with my students, because it was an A day, I'm doing again today. I love having the AB block schedule because it allows that, so I don't have to worry too much. There are certain times of the year where we have a C day, and that means we have all the classes for 45 minutes, and I don't know how I ever taught on a traditional schedule, because I did when I first started teaching. And the district, the first year, after the first year being in this particular district, we switched to block schedule. And I don't know how I ever taught on a traditional schedule, because I absolutely hate when we have C days. Last year we only had 2, and they were like right before the final. And it's just, if I had to do labs, I couldn't do what I wanted to do in a traditional schedule. So I love block scheduling. This is great because you don't have to lick your fingers while passing out papers. When you see your teacher, like, yeah, I would be disgusted. Right now it's 5th period. This is usually PLC time, but I'm the only pre-AP chemistry teacher, so I'm planning by myself. However, I did tell the chemistry teacher, the one across from me, that if they wanted ideas or they needed some resources to let me know, and I would definitely share with them. So right now I'm just planning for the end of the week, actually Friday, because Friday will be a new topic leading into next week, which this Friday is a B day, and then Monday is an A day. So A day will be repeating what I do on Friday with my B day classes. So it's just planning for the rest of the week next week. And really, I have my next unit already planned out, because it was a unit plan that I wrote while I was a science specialist 6 years ago, actually, when I first started that position. But I didn't publish it, and I didn't make it available because I wasn't happy there were some things that I needed to work out with and I wasn't happy, but I had backward planned that unit. So it's going to be a big, pretty much you're going to be doing a lab every single day because it's a qualitative analysis lab that they'll be doing. So I have about 35 more minutes before 6th period starts, then it's lunch, 7th period, and then 8th period is a dual credit chemistry class. So that concludes day 2 of school. My feet hurt. I've been switching in and out. I have my nice shoes and then I have my Skechers. So I had to like switch out. So my feet hurt. Gym this morning, and I'm just tired because normally have 5th period, well, I have 5th period off and then I teach 6th, 7th lunch and then 8th period, and so it's just straight all the way through. And so I'm a little bit tired right now. I'm having just a little snack. Well, I don't know if this is a little, got heavy duty with the lime. So I'm gonna eat this and then I'm actually gonna head home and then just go to bed early again because I don't know if I'm gonna work out tomorrow morning because I did legs, so most likely not. And I'm just tired. So I'm gonna finish up some stuff here, check some email, and then I'm gonna head out. Okay, never mind, I misspoke. I am not going home. I decided to take a look and start, I'm not grading, but I'm highlighting sections of the learning stations that students did not complete. For the most part, they completed a majority of the stations. Any students just have 2 or 3 that they did not complete, so I want to let them know that I did take a look at their work. Some of them I'm putting like little question marks or little comments, and then even if like it looked like they completed a section, they may have skipped one, so I highlighted that area as well. But I'm going to let them know that tomorrow, because 8A, I see them again tomorrow, that they will have an assessment already over this material, because I told them that anyways, that they would. So I would also find out whether or not they just straight up copied from somebody. The other thing that's just difficult right now is my sections are large. Like today, I had 2 new students. They weren't necessarily added today. I think they were maybe added yesterday. So actually I think they were added today. Actually they were added today because when I had created a report from our attendance program, and when I made it, I used that to create the little strips, and that's the little strips I went around and I placed on the tables, and that's directed where, and that's what students used to find where they were going to sit. So I had 2 students show up today and they're like, I can't find my name. I'm like, are you sure? So like I'm looking around with them, and then I pulled up the grade book, and that they were added today. So, which again, still understanding, so I wasn't like upset or frustrated. It's just because of my large number of classes, it's a large number of items that I have to look through and then also manage, you know, throughout the day. So that can be very tiring. Oops, wrong thing. I guess I shouldn't be trying to highlight and vlog at the same time. My 2nd period, many of my students are like, they have 1 more station to complete, so I'm going to have to flex between 1st and 2nd, and perhaps maybe even 4th period. And I have 1 person who has finished. Yep, I have some students who have finished. I just submitted a request to have the living materials delivered to my classroom again this year. So right now what I am doing is, and I can't show you this, but I am taking the pictures from our gradebook / attendance system, and they take pictures of the students when they do their yearbook photo and they upload that to the system. So most of my students have a picture next to their names, and I'm going to practice over the weekend putting a name to a face, so that way next week at least I will have a majority of their names memorized. And that's always great, so that way I can build rapport with the students very quickly, and I'm just like, you know, not calling them another name by accident. Also, I have over 150 students, anywhere between 150 and 170. I need to go back and double check, but most of my sections have anywhere from 28 to 30 students. So I just want to make sure that I learn it as quickly as possible, so that way it's not an issue in case I have to, for some reason, deal with a student call home. And then I know back to school night is approaching, so I don't want to be caught off guard when a student shows up with their parent or guardian and I'm like, I'm trying to remember what their name is. I want to get that done and out of the way. It's also coming in handy because now I know I can put a name to a face, because there were some students on the first day that were making, let's just say, some of my male students were making some inappropriate female noises, if you know what I mean. And I had to keep trying to figure out where it was coming from, first of all. And then when I realized where it was coming from, I didn't know the student's name right off the bat. So now I'm looking at the picture, the name, and now it's ingrained in my head. So I will be watching out for the student. So it's third period, and my feet hurt. I'm gonna have to soak them in some hot water, some Epsom salt and hot water tonight, because they're just killing me. It's just, again, getting used to being back on my feet for a long stretch of time, multiple days back to back. So, however, today's an 8A, first and second period went well. And actually second period, so what I had them do in the beginning was we did this thing called Find Someone Who with lab equipment, and so that was the warm-up. It was just a way, hey, welcome. Usually when class starts, I just like, hey, good morning, how are you doing? Did anybody have, how was your day yesterday? Your first week of school, things like that. And then I get into the warm-up. So the warm-up this time today was just, let's get up and move around the room, get our bodies active, which for most part of the day anyways, they were up moving around because I had them finish the lab stations, the lab equipment and lab safety learning stations activity. Most students were complete. Like I had one student who within the first 5 minutes just had to do one thing and was complete. However, I was ready for that, so they had to select one of 4 choices, and they had to do a writing, which was great because this very first week of school I had them do a reading. They did activities where they had to collaborate with one another. I gave them choice, and today they are writing something, and I have their samples. Actually, I have a whole bunch of papers right here. So it was also collecting the science safety contract and the photograph and video release forms, and I talked to them about that and what I was doing with it. And some of them were like, as long as you take my picture, make sure you filter me. I'm like, I don't take pictures like that. I make sure that I take authentic pictures when you all are engaged in the work and not trying to pose for a picture. So my second period, so first period went well. Again, I can tell in each period, first and second period and all my other periods, because I allowed choice, and so students partnered up with people who they were friends with right away, who I need to keep my eye out for as the year progresses. Some of the groups that were chatting a little bit, they chatted, but they were still on task. And then I had maybe 1 or 2 groups from each period that they chatted, and they were at a station longer than it should have taken them to be. So I had to come over there and say, you have 5 minutes to finish, and when I come back in 5 minutes, you should be done. So especially that's going to come into play when I do the whole flexible seating and allowing them choice. So I want to just make sure I keep my eye out for that. The other great thing is I memorized all of first period. I memorized all of their names. And so this morning before class started, I was creating an official seating chart with their pictures from our gradebook / attendance system. And before class started, I was just practicing going back and forth with their names. So as soon as they were walking into class, I was like, hey, good morning, so-and-so. And they're like, already. So it was great. Sometimes it's a little bit difficult because their picture is perhaps maybe a year old or 2 years old, and so a lot of them have grown a lot since then, or their face has changed, or certain characteristics about them have changed. So sometimes, like, you sort of look like so-and-so, so are you? Second period, I didn't get to memorize their names, so I just told them right off the bat, like, hey, I didn't get to study your names yet and your faces, but I will get that done next Monday. So because I won't see them this Friday is a B day. With second period, I had a couple students who finished quicker, so they finished the stations, they finished the writing, and so luckily I had an activity by one of my TPT science colleagues, a science duo, and I'd used that last year. It was one of the first activities that I had used when I came back into the classroom to review safety, so I had pulled those out. Luckily I had all my activities stored in one area, so that's a great thing about just being prepared ahead of time. I knew that just in case, hey, they finish these things early, I'm gonna go pull this thing. And I didn't want to I debated because I want to start measurement, but our interactive notebooks won't be set up yet, and I didn't want to get into some of that, and also the science safety contract. So some of the stuff that I want them to go back and do in the lab involves the use of glassware, and I can't really do that activity until I have their contracts back. So I extended the safety and equipment learning stations again one more day, plus just doing a writing. So this is a great, I already have a writing sample, so this weekend I'm going to take some time to go through, make comments, and let them know that I'm taking some time to read through their stuff, which I think they already know because when I gave them their learning stations answer sheet back, I think as I said earlier, like I highlighted, you know, information that they were missing, went through if there were numbers, I even wrote some comments there, so they know that I know. And I also told them that it would be very difficult for them if they're cheating in this class. I would find out because I do sometimes one-on-one, and I think I'm gonna do it back there with that mobile lab desk where I'm gonna pull it back and I'm gonna call a couple students back one-on-one and I'm gonna quiz them. Sometimes it's just one-on-one, me one student, but sometimes it might be me and multiple students. So that's where I'm at right now. I'm gonna finish planning. Next period doesn't start for another 40, actually I need to double check. And there goes my lights. Last year, in my old classroom, it was really difficult. Sometimes I'd be sitting behind my teacher desk and the lights would go out and I'd sit there and have to like reach across the thing and I'd be waving my arms. And one time the teacher next door to me last year, who's no longer here, she walked in on the class because the lights had went out and I had been sitting there for a while. I'm like, okay, let me cut on the lights. And as soon as I got up to try to, and I was like leaning over the lab table, like flailing my arms, she opens the door and she walks in. And I'm just like, surprise. Anyways, class ends today at 2:55, so I have 55 minutes left. So I want to get some stuff done. I want to go through some of these sheets. I've already set out, let me show you some of the other sheets for the warm-up already, and I think I shared this already, where the sheets are already at their tables, so when they walk in, the warm-up is there. And what I actually do, I didn't say this, what I actually do is I have them place everything on top of their bins, so all the forms that they're going to give back to me, so the science safety contract, the video and photo release form, and then their composition notebooks, because they had to purchase a composition notebook for the class. They have to put everything right here, and so when they're gonna go, right here, so when I send them back to do the learning stations, that's when I just walk around and I pick everything up. And right now I need to, because my room is gonna change, I don't really have an official, like last year where I had that shelving unit and I was placing things there. I'm using that to store as part of my room decor now. I put my plants up there, so I need to set up a better place to place things right now because I don't have that. And then I'm also using the bins for the learning stations, so the ones that are at least at the tables during the class period. So I'm using those temporarily right now. So I'm either gonna keep those bins for the learning stations and then purchase some new ones for the comp books, because I did tell the kids I'm most likely gonna keep the comp books in the room, unless for some reason they're failing my class or they want to take it themselves. So other than that, I'm gonna get set up and get ready for next period. So it is the 4th day back to school. Today is Thursday's a B day, and so I will see not only the classes that I had Tuesday, but I will see them tomorrow and Friday, because this Friday is a B day. My 8A classes, I will see them on Monday. So my B day classes will be ahead now because they will have had an extra day with me compared to 8A. Right now what I am doing is, like yesterday before class starts, so I have 5th period off because that's usually planning PLC time. Then I teach 6th period, then it's lunch, then 7th period, and then 8th period is a dual credit chemistry course. So that's my schedule today. And usually, I'm not particularly a fan of having the 1st period off. When I first started teaching and I had that schedule at the high school, like I did, but I wasn't, at least when I first started out, wasn't very productive at that time. Whereas now, like I get to school early. In the past couple years, even when I was in the classroom the last time, I would get to school early because I like to get stuff done, and it's just my time to focus on getting things done, grading papers, doing what I'm about to do right now in terms of studying student names, putting a name to a face. And so, 5th period comes and, I get to use that time to prepare, but then it's just straight teaching through the day. Even with lunch, I feel like that's my time to kind of recharge and get refueled back up. but that's not enough time leading into the last period of the day, the 7th and 8th period. And so usually on Tuesdays and Thursdays, I'm a little bit more tired than I am on my Monday and Wednesdays. My A-days, just because of that simple fact that on my A-days, I have 3rd period off, and that's right after lunch. And so I have this huge stretch of time where it's, I get to, recharge and just relax, and I get stuff done, but it's just, again, I'm an introvert. I don't know, maybe if you can't tell that or not, but I am, like, just in my personal life, a very quiet person and introvert. And so sometimes having to deal with people, even if they're children, I need that time to get away and just to have my own little bubble and have my own quiet time. The other thing that I'm excited about this morning is, first I want to say thank you if you subscribe to me, because I just saw this morning, I don't know if you can see, is I hit 1,000 followers on YouTube. So if you follow me, thank you so much. I started my channel back in 2014, and there was like one instance where I put my face on camera. I shot it from my laptop, and then I hid the videos. They're in private mode. They were, I think, like teacher interview tips, and then I repurposed those videos into one of the videos that I have on my page now. And then really starting maybe back in December of 2016, and then I shot a couple more videos early in 2017, like just general tips I uploaded. And then really was this summer where I started doing the vlogging, where I noticed that my channel started to really pick up. So if you subscribed, or if you've seen any of my videos and you commented or liked, I just want to say thank you. I'm excited about that, but now I need to get back to work, so I'm going to stop this so I can focus.
Hey guys, we have 30 minutes, because I'm going to take 5 minutes for us to clean. Also, whichever prompt you choose, do me a favor and place that card number at the top of your paper. So if you choose card number 2, write like card 2 or number 2 at the very top by your name, so that way I know which one to look for when I'm going through your papers.
What is it count?
Card 4 is just the 4th card in the set. Yes.
It's 5 o'clock, and I'm gonna get ready to leave campus. Friday cannot come quick enough. It just, everybody that I've spoken to seems to think that this week, or it feels like this week, has gone on forever. It's the longest week ever. I've had a great week so far. My students did the learning stations, so I allowed student choice, so they can either, and I think I said this earlier, they could work by themselves or they can pick and choose. I only actually had one class that had difficulty doing that compared to the other classes, because it just took a majority of the students longer, and I'm like, what is taking you all so long? This is like the easiest one that you'll be doing all year long. So I'm probably going to have to put some procedures in place for that particular class. Unfortunately, and I told them that already, because just of the way that they were going through the stations. And so, but I purposely did the stations on the first day of school because I wanted to see like which students would get paired up together and can work well together, which students were the ones that would work individually, which ones would take a long time. And so that kind of gave me a good gauge on some of the behaviors already. And so, especially when I do flexible seating, and that's the other reason why I gave them choice early on, because I wanted to see like how they would react and how they could work in certain situations. And so that's going to inform how I set up my groups and the flexible seating as we move forward. Other than that, I've been grading some papers, and because my class sizes are so large, today, like during my dual credit class, while they were getting the introduction from the professor, they were watching a bunch of videos, so I was grading papers and helping them in between. At the same time, like, it felt like it was taking me forever just to grade one class period. And maybe that's because I was getting up and I was helping the dual credit students, but then when they were like set and they were watching their videos and they didn't need my help, I'm sitting there grading one section of, you know, class set of papers, and I'm like, am I done yet? And I'm not. I still have 5 other classes, no, 3 other classes to go, because I graded one set yesterday. And then I also have to read all of the writing assignments. So that's another thing, you know, incorporating writing, I definitely want to do that. and that's a goal of mine, is to incorporate more reading and more writing. But then the downside of that is I have to devote time to sit there and read all of the writing samples, and when a majority of my classes are 30 plus students, that's a lot. And ELA teachers, my hat's off to you, because I don't know how you do it. It's a lot of work, plus having to do labs and set things up for that. And we're actually going to get ready to do a lab thing, so I'm going to be coming this weekend because I need to set that up. I wanted to do it I didn't really want to start off with lab equipment and safety, because that's just something I know my students do, and I felt that I can build that in as I go through. However, just because of the schedule changes, and it's been a while since I've taught chemistry, I wanted to use this as a leeway. And then also because I'm going to do flexible seating, I wanted to see how they would respond. And then also the station's activity for lab equipment and safety was an easy one, so I figured let me introduce them to this whole stations concept, so that when we start doing them throughout the year, I won't have to explain myself over and over again. They'll have the gist of being able to do that. So I lost my train of thought. I don't know what I was talking about. I need to go home and I need to go to bed. Oh, well, I can't remember what I was talking about, but most of my students have brought their composition notebooks, so I'm gonna start their notebooks tomorrow, building their interactive notebooks. And oh, that's what I was talking about. I'm gonna come do a lab. Funny how that comes back in my head. So this weekend I'm gonna come and set up, and I'm gonna finish setting up the rest of my classroom because it just was never finished before the first day of school. However, I need to come in and run through that lab and set things up for next week, because most of the students, again, I wasn't sure whether or not when I would give them their safety contracts, if they would bring them all back. And most of my students have brought their safety contracts back, so I can go ahead and start beginning to start setting up labs, and we can get back and get our hands messy in a safe way. The other great thing was that I had some students yesterday, and they actually came today, but towards the end of lunch, they came in and they had lunch in here, because I told my classes that my door is always open, and so either before school, after school, or during lunch, feel free to come by. If you just want to hang out, you don't even have to talk to me. It's not going to hurt my feelings. If you just want a place to stay here on campus, you can come to my room. And I heard them as I was sitting here eating lunch. I heard them come in and they're like, he said, my door is always open. And so it's like, my door was open. So they came in and they had lunch, and they talked to me for a little bit, but then, I let them, have a conversation amongst themselves. And then they showed up again today, and it was great because a couple of the students I only had, by that point yesterday, I only had them for one time. And I saw them today because I had them in class today. But it was great that they felt comfortable enough to come to my classroom and have some lunch. So I am going to get ready to go home because I need to have dinner and maybe do some more grading, and then after that I am going to call it a night. So I just got to school. I'm about to go put my lunch away in the refrigerator, which I think I'm going to, the reason I hadn't brought my entire week lunch is because that fridge in here needs to be cleaned out. Sorry, it's a mess in here. You can see this area needs to get cleaned up. There's some stuff from previous teachers. Look, it just wasn't cleaned out at the end of last year, and so I wasn't gonna add that onto my list of things to do before the first day of school. Cleaning out the prep room over here just wasn't something that I wanted to add. I was already tired of cleaning up my own room, and I think that's why I really wasn't anxious. Like, I think I was just over cleaning my room, unpacking, packing stuff back, fixing everything up, that I was just mentally drained. I was physically drained, but then I was also mentally drained. And then started off the school. I mean, I had a great first day of school, first week of school, but I was not nervous, starting day one. And normally I am nervous, and it's like an excitement nervous, but I just wasn't even that. I was like, okay, let's just go. It's another day of school. So that's just gonna have to wait to get cleaned out because I just don't have time to do that right now. Sorry if you hear that noise. That's just my home laminating machine. And the reason I brought that here is because my students are also going to do another Learning Stations activity next week over measurement numbers in science, so measuring accuracy, precision, significant figures, scientific notation. So I had already completed one set, and so I need to laminate, and I ordered, well, never mind, that was the first set. But to say I had already put them in the pouches, but that was the first set, which I completed. So I wanted to make sure that I'm not doing this over the weekend because I actually have to read all the readings that they've completed. So I want to give myself some time to do that. Also need to make sure that I edit this and upload that, so that way I meet my weekly deadline. Although I'm not going to kill myself this year trying to meet that, because at the end of the day, it's ensuring that I have everything ready for my students and that I'm not falling behind with what I need to do here at school. So I'm just going to say here, like, I can't promise that I will be able to stick to my weekly schedule, or it just might just mean that I may not film. I just might have to do like weekly recaps, especially if it starts getting hectic during the school year. But other than that, I'm trying to get these ready also at the same time. I came prepared. This is what you can get. I buy these at Office Depot, and they're 50 count, 5 milliliter thick, millimeter thick, milliliter, 5 millimeter thick. The heating pouches, the laminating pouches. These ones are the cheaper ones. So this is kind of what we're doing, where they're gonna read graduated cylinders. Here's another writing thing. I hope I'm not gonna try to kill myself with having them do a whole bunch of writing, but you know, if that keeps me up with my goal on reading and writing in class, then so be it. I think it's just important to read and write, and I am gonna do the Talk Read Talk Write video. I've been meaning, that was supposed to be like my third vlog video after the curriculum design one, and I just kept pushing it back because all the other like I Teach 2 videos came up, and then I went to Vancouver, and I just kept pushing it back. However, I think now that school has started, and majority of my students have returned their photo and video release forms, I think I'm going to perhaps film me implementing that in class, so that way if you're interested to see what that looks like, I can demonstrate. I can't promise if it's going to be perfect, because I went to a training last year, a PD here that we had on campus, and it was a very short one. It was like 4 pages out of the book, and we briefly discussed it. And after reading the book this summer, right after school ended, I realized that I wasn't implementing the process as was described in the book. However, what I did notice was that when I was implementing parts of it, I noticed that my students were able to retain things more compared to other strategies that I had tried before. And so that's why I'm really interested in trying the strategy. The process is not a strategy, it's a process. Implementing the process, excuse me, this school year. And then hopefully I can share what that looks like with you all. So as I do this, I'm also, because it runs through the laminating machine slowly, so as I'm putting it through the laminator, I'm also going to, I memorized already first period, second period, sixth period, so I just need to memorize fourth period, their names, and seventh period. And it does make a difference, because when I memorized the other classes, it was like, in terms of like passing things out, or I needed to take attendance real quick, it was looking up and finding students, or if I was interacting with them, I could, you know, say by name or as they were walking to class. Whereas my other classes, other 2 classes, fourth and seventh period, I didn't know their names, and so instructional time was lost because I had to sit there and like, hey, you know, James, Johnny, and hand out papers, or have them come up and grab the papers. I was losing instructional time doing that. And then also, as they were coming into the classroom, I was just like, hey, good morning, how are you? It was very generic, and I was losing, not that I have to rush to build, you know, we have plenty of time, but I think the sooner that you can build rapport with students, the easier it is. It's not easy, but it helps definitely with classroom management, because when the students know that you care and they know that you've taken an interest in them in class and outside of class, then, you know, a lot of times they will bend over backwards for you. Sometimes, you know, during an evaluation, like they'll, not that I have ever asked students to, hey, you know, change the way that you act if someone's coming into my room to observe me, because kids have sometimes, when I was an instructional specialist and an administrator, they act the same way in class and out of class. So, but I've had the last year that I was in the classroom I had one of my more difficult classes observed, and after the principal had left, one of the students was like, look, we were on our best behavior. I'm like, I didn't ask you to do that. But and I had run into that student when I became an instructional specialist. He's like, Mr. Elias. But that again just goes to show you that, you know, obviously they cared about me and they saw that the principal was in my room and they wanted me to do well. So I think it is important to establish those relationships early on. Sorry, like I'm trying to figure out what I'm doing and talk to you all at the same time. But just establishing those relationships that I think many of the other the teacher tubers, so I'm gonna start calling them the teacher tubers, have mentioned that as well. It's, especially if you're a new teacher, it's something that can go a long way in helping you build and help your classroom management succeed. Okay, with that said, I'm gonna stop doing this because I'm losing focus of what I'm doing, and I need to get this done, and I also need to do what I was about to do on my laptop. This is just another time-saving tip. If you use duct tape to tape the spine of your composition notebooks, I just go ahead and do it before class begins so that way they can come and grab a piece of tape versus just passing tape around. Now, of course, you can always buy multiple rolls of duct tape. However, that's like $5 a piece, and then if you're buying different colors for different periods, it will tend to add up. And this is my roll from last year, so you can still see I have some left over, and I have to go to the store and buy a new roll of duct tape. So I had to come to Hobby Lobby because I need to pick up more tape for my interactive notebooks. So I have the ribbon. I just need to get some duct tape for, because last year I only had 5 classes, I didn't have 6, so I need to get extra color for one of my class periods. And I can't figure out which color I want because that just depends on the color paper that I can find and purchase that will match their hall ticket passes, because really the color code on their notebook matches the hall ticket passes that I give the students.
Hall 9791, Hall 9791.
And I'm rushing because I came during my lunch. So today was a B day, so I saw the classes that I had yesterday, today, and my pre-AP chemistry classes, what we did was we did musical shit at the very beginning because I didn't do like a get to know you activity the very first day of school, so I decided, you know, we've had some time to move around, let's share 3 things about you, 2 things that you did this summer, and 1 goal that you have for the class, and then we played musical share. I'll make a video about that later. After that, I had them take a 16-question survey, so it was like email address, you know, do you have any allergies, do you work? Also, the last question was about flexible seating, so I had 3 pictures of flexible seating classrooms, and then there was a news segment that was shot in Sacramento where the news went out to an elementary campus, 5th grade, but it was really because I couldn't find any videos at the high school level, but just to give them an idea what flexible seating was and flexible learning. And the question asked, you know, is this something that you'd be interested in? You know, explain why or why not. And so I got a lot of the students were like, yes. I still need to go through all of them, but the responses that I saw so far seem very positive. Like they really wanted to do something like that. So now that I have at least half of my classes, their opinions, I'm excited about implementing it this school year. So other than that, something is beeping out there, the alarm pad is beeping. I am going to grab my stuff and I'm going to head home, soak my feet in some Epsom salt and hot water, and call it a day. I have a whole bunch of essays to grade, so yeah, there goes my weekend. Well, that's it. If you're interested in checking out some of my other videos, you can check them out by clicking on any of the links right here. If there was anything about this video that you liked, make sure to hit that like button, comment down below, and or share the video. And if you haven't already done so, make sure to subscribe by clicking on the link right here. I don't know why I'm laughing, so that way you can bond with James. As always, thanks for watching. I don't know what's so funny right now. I think I'm losing my mind. First day, like Looney Tunes. This is what happens on the first day of school, the first week of school. I'm losing my mind.